Thank you, everybody, for watching my show, William Wallace for America. If you've been tuning in here, you just saw that a little bit ago, we interviewed Elizabeth Franklin Best. But next up, I got another Best interview here, Emily Chenevert. Emily, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, William. It's great to be a part, just to contribute in any way that I can. So,
Well, that's why I wanted to bring you on, is because from seeing you at the different events, seeing how involved you are, and I know how busy you are because you've got an event tonight.
yeah,
And you're running for office, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. And you got your whole other, you got so much going on. Thanks for sharing some time with me.
of course.
So, Emily, let's talk to me. Where do you think that freedom is under attack in America?
Well, it's a great question, and I think there's maybe a few areas, but I'll be honest, from my heart, William, I feel like uh, my biggest concern is freedom of speech and being able to voice the things that we care about. I know for me, what I care about as a conservative, and the reason I say that is, I work a lot with parents and moms, and we talk about through Moms for Liberty, our local chapter here in Louisiana in East
Right.
Baton. And, that's one thing that for me, it's using your voice a lot to speak on what's going on in education and parental
Right.
involvement and parental rights. And so if you look across the country, you're seeing in some states, you're seeing a little bit of that trying to kind of be whittled away. And I think I always like to say seeds being planted. And so when I say that, I always say
Right.
that because it's about the seeds being planted sometimes that grow into things that we do not want in our country. And
Right.
so states, you're seeing some legislation, you're seeing some rights taken away if they're not agreeing with some of the gender issues in other states. California's been doing some of that. So I think that the states matter greatly, and
Right.
state and building strong states with strong families and using our voices to do so. And so we can't allow that freedom to be taken away. Um,
Right.
I'm not, oh, I mean, I'm always going to speak truth, right? And we
I
have
love it. Absolutely.
you have to. So that's a big thing for me. And lastly to that, and I know we'll keep talking, but you kind of saw even when it comes to parents, how there was the National School Board Association sent out a
Right.
letter. Talking to the Biden administration a while back, asking for help and support, feeling like sometimes there's some parents at school boards that are pushing back too much. There's a
Right.
threat. They had to redact that. They had to pull that letter back because that's not really the threat, right?
Right. Exactly.
A threat. So, and they've got to use their voice. And so I'm a big believer in parental rights. And I think that's one area we've got to use our voice for our kids in this country.
And what's interesting too, and I want to touch on this for just a second, not for too long, but 648 just got passed, which basically says that a parent or a doctor cannot alter the sex of a child. And the argument I had heard was being made by the other side on this is that, well, you guys, talk about, not, about restoring parental rights and protecting parental rights, but what you've done with 648 is take parental rights away. And I know my answer and we agree on a lot of things, but will you please tell what the difference is, because I love your answer.
Well, I always like to say that, our parental rights have always stopped at the place of harming a child. Right. We've always protected innocence. We've always said, hey, it is our right, obviously, to speak on behalf of our children, to nurture them, to shield them from harm. That situation is actually harming children, harming them. And so nobody, it doesn't matter who they are, a doctor, a parent, nobody has the right to harm a child. Nobody has the right to take their innocence away. My husband and I have this conversation all the time. We talk about how, as a parent, we have by law, we have to put our child in a car seat. We have to put them and buckle them in safely. If something happens to them, like, we've always protected them. We don't just get to say, you know what, they can sit in the front seat at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Fine. We don't get to do that as parents.
Wait. What if they identify as an adult? Can they sit in the front seat if they identify as an adult?
Right. I mean, those are exactly
Right.
the things that, it's common sense, honestly, William. It's common sense. And I think that's the thing that you did hear that argument a lot. But I just know beyond the shadow of a doubt, we've got to protect the hearts and minds of our kids. And in that situation, so many times your children, they're young, their brains are not fully developed.
Mm-hmm.
stats show that they usually grow out of that gender dysphoria as they age. And can you imagine being 25 and 30 and then not being able to have children, not being able to walk in the true biological sex that you are? So look, I could talk about it forever, but that is
Yeah.
interesting to hear the other side make it about parental rights.
Yeah, but and you heard that too. But what I think is now we have an opportunity, as you know, Moms for Liberty, William Wallace for America. We have an opportunity in our community to reach out to those people and say, hey, now let's set up some things in our community that brings people together to be able to help the children that have that need or feel they have that need in a positive way that helps them get to age 18, we'll say,
Right.
where they can either make their own decision. And until then, as parents and adults, we can do things that offer support and help for them in this trying time that obviously we're now seeing that there's some children that go through trying times and find ways we can come together.
Absolutely.
So
I call it's tough love. I mean, look, when so much about parenting is tough love. There's times where your children feel the need, they want to do something, right? They think that they're safe. They think that they can handle it. I have a little 7-year-old. It's my son who he thinks he's 18, right? He's tough as nails, but there's things that his father can handle that
he identifies as an adult.
right.
So he was sitting in the front seat. So what do you think other people can do? So 2 questions here before we have to leave out here is what do you think other people can do to help protect our rights? Doesn't it not necessarily 648 what we talked about for a minute, but what can we do to protect those First Amendment rights that you're in fear of? And then I want you to answer the question a little bit. What are you doing to protect rights? So what can we all do to work together to protect rights?
Well, one thing I always say with that is number one, always use your voice. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak truth into hard situations. I think that if we rally behind or if we rally together and people unite in that front, there's going to be a lot of us that are number one, they're recognizing that what's happening, and then two, using your voice. And then honestly, the second to that is also elect people that want to protect it. Elect people that believe that freedom of speech is critical in a
Right.
society like America. I always say this. I am a defender of that, and I will defend someone who defend their right, even if they disagree with me, but I will defend
Right.
the right to speak, because in return, it could be me on the other side one day. And so we've got to make sure we elect people in our country that want to defend that right. I'm a big believer in that. And then the other thing is what I'm doing is just number one, to encourage others to advocate for that.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
Obviously I am running, right? Because I believe in these rights. I've watched it. And at some point you sit back on the sidelines and say, man, what can I do? I want to use my voice. I want to rally other families and parents and be like, hey, we all agree on this issue that we want to keep that protected. And so that's another thing. And then look, I mean, Moms for Liberty of East Baton Rouge Parish. I will say I'm just one part of that. It is not the Emily show. There's one,
Right.
and it's not about me. I have a great a vice chair with me in that, and then the moms that are come and dads and grandparents. So, I think is when you gather, there is strength in numbers, and
Right.
strength and talking about these things.
That's right.
I'm a big believer in that.
I love it. So Moms for Liberty, and also you're running for what now? What are you running for?
I'm running for state representative in District 66 in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Wow. Look, as active and passionate as you've been in the community, it's going to be great seeing you in this race, for state rep. And look, I ran for state rep many years ago. I didn't win, but that's okay. For me, it helped launch a radio show.
Yeah.
And as long as you use your voice, you're going to be able to make a difference in your campaigning. And if you win, you're going to be able to use all of that support you gather to make even more of an impact when you get there. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. What we'll do is down the road, we'll have a show just talking about your race and your qualifications and what you're doing. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
And we thank you very much for standing for freedom. Tell Kate I said hello.
Hello.
And tell William also, I'd be there tonight with you guys, but I'll be interviewing people till 6:30 tonight. I've got about 8 more people to interview tonight.
We understand.
All right. Emily, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night. Good luck tonight.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Hey, Ray, how's it going?
Oh my gosh, it's William Wallace. How are you?
Doing good. You're a little fuzzy. Okay, let's speak again.
I said, William Wallace, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing real good, but your microphone says
How's the volume? I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Hang on, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback. So hang on.
That's all right. We got a minute.
Okay. All right, that's a little bit. Can you hear me a little bit better
that
now?
sounds so much better.
All right, let me turn off the fan real quick. You know, we are in very hot Arizona. Okay.
Oh, you ain't got nothing on me. Don't tell me hot Arizona. I'm in Louisiana. We got the heat. We got the heat and the humidity. So you're not, you got nothing on us right now. I'm joking with you a little bit. We are live, and we're running this show. I'm talking to people about freedom and liberty. I can just tell by your background that you believe in it.
Well, you know that I do.
Yeah.
And it's great seeing you again. The last time we spent some time together was at CPAC.
That's right.
We had just a great time over there. We've been doing some amazing things here in Arizona. We have become really the ground zero for what's happening around the country. One thing that I've realized is that people have this idea that we need to unify. Everything needs to be unified. And I've come to terms with a lot of things cannot be unified. Oil and water cannot be unified. Light and darkness cannot be unified. Good and evil and smart and stupid can't be unified, no matter how hard you try.
Right, I love it.
Yeah. So I think more of loyalty. Who are you loyal to? Now, for me, I'm loyal to God first. That includes my family. That includes my friends, all the tenets of the Judeo-Christian faith. Second, to my country. I'm loyal to my country. And that means the Constitution of the state of Arizona, which, and I think you know this, that if we have a certain right here in Arizona, and it's written in our Constitution, right, no matter where you are in the country, you have that same right, even if it's not specific to your state, because we are the United States.
Right.
So to my state and to my country, I'm loyal to them. And so when we think of parties, and you know what, I'm proud to say that I'm a Republican. I like where the foundation of the Republican Party came from. But when it comes down to whether it's party loyalty or Constitution loyalty, I will lead with the Constitution. It's my
Absolutely.
God and my Constitution.
Are you reading off of my coin?
No.
Because my coin says God, family, God, family, country, freedom. In that order, which is say we agree with the same thing, which is why we get along so well. But that's something that I believe in too. I think if you put God first and you put your family next, the two of those combined and following the rules of their country is the only way to freedom.
Well, William, you're exactly right. And again, as I talk to the thousands of people, here in Arizona, and I think I told you about this, Grassroots 50 was at CPAC along with totalnews.com. And what we're doing here is we're really doing four things that are so important. We're informing. And once you're informed, you have a choice. Right. Do you want to know more, or do you want to sit back and say, you know what, I'm not interested? Once you're informed, it's your choice. Now, if you want to know more, we educate you. And when you find out that you learn all these things, you're educated, you're like, right, oh my gosh, how can we change things? We are so far gone. We've gone down the dark side far too. There's nothing we can do. Then we motivate people and we say, you know what? We can do something. We have our faith, we have God, and we have our Constitution.
Right.
And once we inform them, educate them, motivate them, then we activate them. We get them together. We're kind of the eHarmony of the civic society. Right. We're trying to pair up civic-minded people
right,
with existing organizations that are out there. So you tell us, as an informed citizen, what is your passion? Is it election integrity? Is it border security? Is it child trafficking? Is it education? What is it? Because here's an organization, here's 5 organizations that match up to your goals, your desires, and your passions. So we merge them together. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. There's a lot of organizations out there, fantastic organizations that do exactly what you are passionate about. Get involved with them.
Well, Grassroots 50 kind of is the umbrella corporation that partners up people in different organizations.
Right. We are the organization for the organizations to get out to the grassroots. Because a lot of times somebody in the grassroots may say, you know what, I tried this organization, we really didn't mesh. I tried another one, I'm giving up. No, we don't want you to give up. If you tell us what your goals, your desires, your passions are, we will organize, we will associate you with the correct organization. So that's where it comes into. We're losing our freedom because we don't know what it is. We forget that it's God, man. God gave us certain inalienable rights.
Exactly right.
And you know what? And they're self-evident. It's not as though somebody made them up or they're just floating out there. They're self-evident.
Everybody wants to be able to walk around free and live their life free, not having to. I mean, look, freedom isn't necessarily not being in jail, because you cannot be in jail and still be oppressed by a government that's run amok because it's not for freedom. But what real quick before I forget now, I want to ask you, where do you think freedom is most under attack in America?
Well, I mean, they are willfully and deliberately attacking the core foundation of our Constitution. Now, I truly believe that this was divinely inspired, that it's God intervened and said for man to have all of his rights. And among these are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. There are many, many other rights that we have, that we established a governmental system to protect our rights. What's happening now is the government is stepping between us and God, saying, we will now tell you what you can do. We will mandate these things. You must allow us to do this for your safety. You know what? I will protect myself. Okay. I'm happy being fully accountable, fully responsible for all of my actions. I don't want anybody stepping in there. I want us to leave. I want the government to leave us alone to protect our rights, liberties, and freedoms. And this is individual. These are not collective.
Right.
When you say, well, we're this community, we're that community. No, we are Americans, but we have individual rights, liberties, and freedoms.
And what I always say is, now in the beginning, you said that, there's a lot of things that we can unite on. I actually think there's a lot more that we can unite on when we talk about freedom and liberty. I believe that that when you talk about the raw principles of freedom, liberty, our God-given rights, our inalienable God-given rights for that matter, that there's more that we can actually unite on. But the best part about it is we don't have to agree on each other's individual ideologies or beliefs or narratives, because we can say, look, I might not agree with that, but I'll check it at the door. What can we unite on? And while to your point, while it might not be a lot or many things in some cases, the core values of freedom, liberty, family, these are all things that we can all unite on. And when we work on that together, we not only preserve freedom with respect to each other's individual choices, but we preserve our society and our country. What do you think more people can do to preserve freedom and liberty in America?
I agree with everything that you're saying. And I actually looked up the word unity. And what it means is two things become one.
Right.
So the idea of unity, I look at it at a little bit different way. I think, what are our foundation? What are we loyal to? We have to have some sort of foundation where we can all stand, right? For me, it's God and it's the Constitution. So I ask people, where is your loyalty? If you are loyal to God and the Constitution, then we have a closed hand that we can agree on that. That is our foundation of everything else. Some of the other things can be an open hand. We discuss them. We can say, okay, do you want to have do you want Tuesday to be the important day or do you want Thursday? It doesn't matter. We can decide those things, but we must have the core foundation, which is the Constitution. Now, what you were saying is where we're losing our freedoms. Well, right now we have freedom of speech. It's the First Amendment. Right. Now, when you say that that is hate speech, no, it's free speech. There is no such thing as hate speech. You may not like the speech that I have.
Exactly.
But you must defend that I have the ability to speak in that way. I might be stupid, and that's why I said smart and stupid cannot unify, right? Some people are just stupid. But when you think years ago that the ACLU defended these white supremacists who marched in a Jewish neighborhood, and they defended them. They didn't like the speech. They didn't agree with the speech. But when you have free speech, you truly have freedom. So when people say to me, oh, that offended me. Well, I grew up, as you probably did too. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words shall never harm me. For some reason, words are triggering everybody. Right. They have to go into a safe space. They have to hold the teddy bear and cry. I mean, how weak do we expect to be?
And when we're teaching young people to not be tolerant. We're teaching young people basically to accept things that are, to accept everything, but to be tolerant of nothing. And what I'm saying about that is we're teaching them, hey, you can go do this, you can go be a pirate, you can identify as a kitty cat, I'm of course we exaggerate a little bit to make the point, but
you're exactly right.
Exactly. But at the same rate, through things like CRT, we're teaching our young people to not be tolerant of other people, to be taught that we're not supposed to like each other, and it's done indirectly. But the problem with that is, the minute we become more intolerant of each other, we become intolerant of each other's freedoms, and that gives the government more opportunity to take away and or regulate everybody's freedom. And I did an interview early. The first interview today was with Elizabeth Franklin Best, and she talks about criminal rights and that fine line between charging criminals the right amount and that fine line between that and true justice and freedom. And when you look at that and you realize that the intolerance of other people's rights actually removes everybody's rights, then you realize how important it is to fight for everybody's freedom and liberty.
Yeah. William, there's no denying it. I mean, if you look at historically, we are based on a Judeo-Christian system.
Right.
We just are.
Right. Yeah.
And our morals and values through the education system, they said that you cannot self-govern unless you have an educated populace. So we created all of these universities, all these schools based on Proverbs 1:7, which says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So they built our whole educational system on, we learn God, we learn the morals of God, and we learn everything else. And that's how it's set up. And what has happened is we've reversed the whole thing. We learn everything else. Morals are relative to however you were raised. And God, we really don't believe in God. Government is more important, right? So what happens there, it becomes a free-for-all. You see, the 10 Commandments state, thou shalt not steal, right? So if we say, well, you can steal up to $1,000 and still not be punished. No, stealing is stealing. Thou shalt not steal. There's not a, well, thou shalt not steal unless you woke up and you had a really bad day and, you just need to get a little anxiety out.
I mean, if you're saving for college, it's okay. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I want to go backwards a little bit. You said, I love your Proverbs quote. That was excellent. Thank you for sharing with that. I'm gonna have to get you to send that to me, or so I don't forget it. But you said they based our education system on this proverb. Who is the they?
Well, this is our founding fathers. In fact, one of the very first one of the very first acts that Congress did was to print the Bible. It was an act of Congress. They wanted to print the Bible because a moral and religious person, self-governance is only for a moral and religious people. That's it. So they printed out the Bible. They sent it out to everybody. They said, learn this. That you had to learn things from the Bible, the 10 Commandments. You had to learn all those things first. And, we came from a society that was nice. De Tocqueville, when he went back to France, they said, how is the Americans doing so well? He said, they truly care about each other. So what they're doing is they're dividing and conquering. If you can hate your brother because maybe their great-great-grandfather was not nice to you, or they come from a different place, so they eat a different food, or they have a different color, or a different religion, or whatever. If we can learn to hate each other from grade school, this is where CRT comes in, right? I'm oppressed because of the color of my skin, because of my height, because of my gender, because of whatever. No, we are Americans. We are all Americans. We all share it. That's why it was so revolutionary for our founding fathers to establish in a written document in our Constitution that said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, which means mankind, men and women, all men are created equal, that we've all been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which among those are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. They put this in a document for the first time in recorded history. Nobody had ever done that. There was a king, there was a dictator, there was some sort of ruler over them. And we said, no, God is king. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, William, but
we're close. My next, I got 2 minutes before my next guest comes on, but let's.
All right, I'll share this one with you because this is great. After George Washington won and they were going to put him in as president, some people wanted him to be king. They actually wanted him to be king.
Wow. Yeah.
And the big phrase, what they were placing on the boards and chanting out was, there is no king but King Jesus. Can you imagine a country coming together under that banner?
There's two things that you said. I'm going backwards a little bit. You mentioned de Tocqueville, and not only do I love reading a lot about de Tocqueville, but he also, when he went back to, as you said, when he went back to Europe, when they asked why the Americans so good, he also mentioned about the pulpit. He also mentioned about our churches. He talked about how our strength in our country, the strength of America lies in the pulpits of the churches. And de Tocqueville talks about that. And then another thing that you talked about with freedom, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in our Constitution, there's a lot of people that like to bring up, well, they had slavery and the founding fathers owned slavery. And a little fact that I like to bring up when I have the opportunity, which you're giving me, which is that a lot of people don't realize that our founding fathers were also born into slavery. No, they weren't slaves, but for hundreds of years before our founding fathers, came up with the idea to create a constitution, they had their relatives, their great-grandfathers, their great-great-grandfathers, all were slave owners. So when our founding fathers were born, they were already born in the families that owned slaves or didn't own slaves. But at a time when they created the Constitution, they knew in their infinite wisdom that they were not going to be able to end slavery at that time because it was already been in existence for hundreds of years. But what they did, and the words that you read, thank you very much for the reminder, was proof that our founding fathers created stepping stones for all men to be created equal and for all men to enjoy the freedoms and liberties of our Constitution. And not many people think of it that way. So thank you for letting me bring that up.
And they don't know about the Black Road Regiment. They don't know about history. And that's why education is so important. Hey, give a shout out to John Kennedy. We love him out here. I understand that there's a community there that people are working on. Do we have any time to talk about that? We have
about one more minute. I'll give you another minute before we bring on the next guest.
We have a group here called Affidavit Mamas 2021.com, and they're helping with remonstrance affidavits to help the community there. Now, is it Mainsville? How do you pronounce the let's
we have Mandeville. Oh, you're talking about Mandeville.
Mandeville, yes.
Yeah, Mandeville.
Yes, so we're working really hard. We're actually signing affidavits here in Arizona through affidavitmamas.com and grassroots50.com with totalnews.com. And we're signing affidavits. You can go to our website, grassroots50.com, sign an affidavit there to help out those people in Louisiana, because we are 50, Grassroots 50. Obviously, we're going to be in all 50 states. We're working on 10 right now, which are the border states and the battleground states. But I understand that you have a lot of things going on there in Louisiana, and I understand that John Kennedy is getting involved in that as well.
Absolutely. St. Mandeville is in a parish called St. Tammany Parish, and a lot of people realize that St. Tammany Parish has one of the worst voting registrations, or one of the worst registration, not system, but has the most or the worst voting registrations in our state, in our country. And I might not be saying that exactly the right way, but to your point, I'm the one that says, look, we need to get out there and start canvassing our neighborhoods more and getting affidavits signed to be able to get people off the rolls that aren't supposed to be there. I think that's what you're referring to, correct?
Yes. And for the people of Louisiana, number one, to live in a free society, we have a duty, a civic duty and a civic obligation to be involved. Whether it's picking up the phone, talking to your friend, writing a letter, contacting your representative, whatever it is, get involved. If you go to grassroots50.com, we're going to be in Louisiana very shortly. You're going to be able to form with an organization that best suits your desires, your goals, and your passions. Get involved, whether it's financially, whether it's making some phone calls or doing whatever you need to do. Please get involved.
All right, Ray, I'm gonna do that. Are you coming to Louisiana, Ray?
I will be traveling there shortly. I will keep you posted.
You have to be in touch with me, man. We'll catch up. You're coming to my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
If you come to my neighborhood,
tell John Kennedy that we said hi. We met him over at CPAC. He does a great job there. We'll
do that. Ray, I'm gonna be in touch with you soon. We have to talk some more on some things that you're working on and I'm working on, and we'll work together. But for the purpose of our forum, I'm going to get to the next guest, and you and I are going to talk soon. All right?
Yes. And William Wallace for America. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you very much, Ray. Look, Ray, I've always loved talking to you. We're going to continue the conversation.
And blessings to you.
Blessings to you too. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Dan Albert, how are you doing, sir? Dan, I can't hear you. There you go.
Myself muted.
There you go. Yeah, don't do that.
So greetings, William Wallace. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Dan. How are things out there on the East Coast?
Well, things are just as crazy on the East Coast as they are all over the country, right?
Yep, that's right.
We're losing our country. We're in the midst of a Marxist coup. We have so many, we face dangers from every direction, and the leftists are trying to destroy Western civilization and the family and American prosperity, the middle class. We're in it real deep.
Where do you think we are losing freedom in America?
Where aren't we losing freedom? It's just everywhere you look, we're just having our liberties taken away from us. The seminal issue of our time, of course, is election integrity, and we don't have fair and free elections. That's one ultimate freedom. We have the freedom to choose our representatives, but that's been taken away from us by folks that have corrupted the system. We've got the World Economic Forum wants to enslave all of humanity and have lords and serfs, and we'll be happy owning nothing. Our free speech is being trampled upon. Big tech is violating our privacy, and big government has colluded with big tech. We've been sold out by our elected officials at all levels of government. So that's a short synopsis of the problem.
What do you think we can do about it? What's your solution on what can be done with that, Dan?
Well, you sent a text about what we can do to restore our liberties or to protect our liberties, and what I'm doing. And I'd like to point out that we all have the opportunity to conduct our own campaign of one. And as we do that, we take ownership of what that campaign looks like. We wage our campaign of one, and we collaborate with everybody that we can reasonably collaborate with. So like for you and I, for example, we can collaborate on, Louisiana is one of 5 states that has elections that are, federal elections are decoupled from state and local. You have a governor's race this year, correct?
Correct.
So in Louisiana, and New Jersey and Kentucky, Mississippi, and Virginia, all 5 of those states have the opportunity to have a head start in restoring election integrity by just decoupling and going to paper ballots with federal elections in particular, and just restore integrity to federal elections. So like you and I, as we collaborate, we could work on, you have all those interviews you've done with state legislators and your contacts there. You can reach out, and what I'm doing on the election front would be to try to organize people. There's a meeting format. I'd like to start having mock elections that would demonstrate what election integrity look like and how simple it is. So, those kinds of things with respect to election integrity. I've written a couple of books. One is The Albert Plan to Save America. I've outlined a whole bunch of bold ideas to restore our lost liberties, to restore federalism and restore national sovereignty, individual liberty, limited government, and to unleash free market capitalism. And those are simple ideas, but they're not going to be easy.
Right.
So we need to organize. We need to. I've got a couple of ideas to get people on the same page, and my mission is try to organize and mobilize and educate and inspire 30 million Americans to get on the same page. And I have what I call the clamoring. The silent majority needs to become the clamoring majority. And as to your previous guest mentioning natural rights, they do come from God. And our founders asserted those natural rights. And they said, among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I think we could have a national discussion about natural rights conferences to try to just take it to the next level. Our founders just got us started.
That's amazing. So you think, as I do, that's the best way for us to preserve our freedom and liberty is through our election process. And obviously, if you're talking about paper ballots and and a ballot system, you're talking more about putting the votes back in the hands of people and counted by the hands of the people instead of a third party, whether it's a machine or the belief that another party is counting them through the machines. Is that correct?
Essentially, yeah. They've gone to completely centralizing all of the election processes, and when you count millions of ballots or hundreds of thousands of ballots at a counting center, you have to use high-speed machines and all that. If you have small precincts and you have paper ballots, you can have a white ballot for Congress and a blue ballot for president and a red ballot or pink ballot for Senate. And each precinct, you just go into your precinct and put your thumbprint on the back of the ballot. I know that's controversial for some people, but those paper ballots never leave the possession of the local folks that run the election and store in a congressional district. You can store all those ballots after they're counted in a vault that's 20 by 20. It's not a large storage area. Maybe
Not
it's
at all.
20 by 40. I mean,
They'll want you to believe that it's a large storage area and they don't have the room.
Right.
But the reality is, you can have the paper ballots and store the paper ballots for a year, and then maybe the next year, transpose them or make a digital copy of them.
Shred them. Eventually, shred them.
Well, yeah, eventually shred them. And for our friends, our environmental friends, you can always recycle that paper. But
absolutely.
So But to the point is, if we take those ballots and store them for a year, 2 years as paper, then you can always come back and make a digital copy and store it on one little disc. But that's a whole other story. So, Dan, is there anything else that you believe is a way that we can do to protect our freedoms and liberties?
Well, like I said, getting on the same page and moving as one, speaking as one, the clamoring majority, the silent majority becoming the clamoring majority. I've got the notion that we should be having Faith and Freedom Fridays all over the country. Just that simultaneously,
I love it.
If we had 20 million people gathering in small groups and large groups, some of these groups could beam in speakers, and we need to really have basically the combination of a revival in our country and turning back to our biblical foundation, and then also clamoring for freedom. And so that's one idea. I've got a website, freedomcells.com, and on that website, if you scroll down, you'll find the election integrity book that I just published in 2021. Yeah. And then the Albert Plan to Save America is 2020 edition.
I love it.
So those are on the homepage of that website, and people can. The website is really just getting going. I need a lot of help. So, but the way I envision, rolling this thing out is that it'd be a site where if you had 30 million patriots or 50 million or 75 million, all on that kind of a website, we could talk to each other. We can have forum discussions. There's so many people that create a landing page or a website that just sucks in email addresses, and then they just mass email to people that are sort of.
They don't actually help. They don't actually help or support people, in such a way to promote election integrity, which I appreciate you're doing. Where can people get your book?
Well, the books are available on Amazon, but I also make the book available in case pricing quantities to folks that would form a freedom cell in their precinct or in their congressional district, and then have people forming precincts. We got to do that, and it's sort of an opportunity to have. The book is sort of a discussion guide that people can use. I make 36 pages available at no cost on the website. People could just download that. That's the essence of what's needed. So I'm creating tools and content, and so there have been a number of folks that have bought quantities of the book. But that's another way to get more, communicate with people more and get the ideas out there.
So, Dan, before I get on to that, we have my next guest coming up here. Before I go to them, you mentioned that you need some help. A minute ago, you talked about you need some help. If somebody goes to your website, they read your book, and they want to help you in some way, shape, or form, get the word out, what kind of help are you looking for, or how do they get a hold of you?
Well, we all have time, talent, and treasure in different measure. We all have the same amount of time and God-given talent and treasure. So, I would ask people to just take hold of their own campaign of one. If they want to, I have to be careful about vetting people that might help with my website, for example. I'm sure a lot of nefarious actors would love to come and help me.
Yeah.
Destroy the website, right? Well, and so, I've not raised a lot of money, just a little bit from a few sponsors that have helped me get to meetings or things like that. But there's a lot of bang for the buck with the limited funds that I would need. So if people are interested, they can just reach out to me at the website. There's an email address. There's a way that they can communicate with me at the website. And the Albert Plan at gmail.com is the email address.
All right, Dan.
So
I want to thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I'm gonna have you on again soon down the road, and we're gonna keep this conversation going. All right.
Sounds good. Take care, brother.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. Magda, how are you doing?
Great to see you. How are you? It's been too long.
I got to tell you, that smile, that you got to trademark that smile because it's very original, it's very bright, and it's very friendly. And I got to tell you, I'm happy to have it on my show all the time.
You.
How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I am doing absolutely wonderful and even better now. And great to connect with you once again.
Well, same here. Well, I missed the Turning Point event. I saw you at I've been watching you, not stalking, just on social media. The little thing comes up there. You've been at the Turning Point event, and you were at the women's Turning Point event. Also, that was 2 separate events. Where to next?
So there are 2 local gun shows coming up here in Florida.
Yeah.
Over the next couple months, and then I'm working on a few other potential events coming up for the fall, and also America Fest with Turning Point. That's going to be in December. So probably in the Phoenix area once again. So yeah, just trying to keep busy and get out there, connect with people, and share freedom.
That is the way to keep freedom going. And that's and people don't realize it's not just the freedom to travel. It's not just about the event. It's about connecting with other like-minded people who are concerned about freedom, which is why I connected with you. And while I ask you, because this, of course, this show on Mondays is my Finding Freedom Forum. Where do you think that freedom is being lost in America today?
Yeah, well, a better question might be, where is it still being preserved? Because I think that is diminishing.
Wow, that was good.
Everything is being hit with an assault on our freedom. Everything, right?
Yeah.
And unless you're living remotely, unconnected to anything digitally, in the middle of nowhere, and even then,
right, exactly,
you may not really be as free as you think you are, or as you were 50 years ago. So everything is under attack. I do see some differences. I think technology has certainly opened up the doors for more areas for our freedoms to be infringed upon, just because of the technology that exists today that didn't exist previously. For example, kill switches in vehicles, new vehicles, so that the government can come in and shut your car down for whatever reason. I mean, seriously?
What cars are doing that now?
I heard it's at all new vehicles that are being manufactured as of a certain date. So, legacy vehicles obviously are not going to have that.
Right, exactly.
That's frightening to think.
I mean, really to think about. I mean, I get what's the sad part is what'll happen is they're going to provide. They're going to say, well, it's because of car theft. It's because of carjacking, so we can catch the bad guy. It's because. So, in other words, all the good people are going to have to lose freedom because our politicians are not creating the right environments that promote less crime and more opportunity, or fight crime the way it should be fought, or are not, or they're doing things that, of course, are making our neighborhoods crumble, essentially, which promotes crime. So now we citizens have to give up our rights as car owners. And the kill switch, I mean, I'm rambling around a little bit for the reason, people go, oh, why are you rambling around? But I'm trying to emphasize that, hey, look, if we have to give up our rights because of a few bad people, we might as well give up all of our rights.
Well, exactly. Like, what kind of state are we living in, so to speak? It's like ridiculous that we have so much government overreach in every area, in every aspect. And, as a consumer and as a business owner, like, I kind of wish they would go after other areas that do need to be, regulated better, more efficiently. But no, they're not touching those areas. So, they're going after areas that, allow us as citizens to literally be free. Also, we have this Fed now, which is, a precursor for the central banking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on now. This is just
because once they go digital, imagine once they go digital, they know everything we're buying. That's a loss of freedom. And if we're trying to buy something that's not approved, or maybe they're paying for our health care, well, wait a minute, you can't buy that. You're not supposed to, because the
Right.
CBD.
Right. And collectively, where is that going to lead us to? Are we
Right.
going to have that social credit system like they have in China where, you're going to feel it in your day-to-day life because of certain criteria that they put forth. So it's unbelievable that we live in this kind of world. Was it, predicted
Right.
in books and movies and, different thought leaders?
1984.
Yes, exactly. Have
Right.
saw this world, or imagined a world where this could happen. And it's very, very disheartening that it actually is happening and we're living through it right now. So there's that.
Right.
How do we get around that? How do we fight back? I mean, everybody has to be very vocal about it.
I think, and that's why I talk to people and bring on people with all these different things that they're working on. Because when I ask people where we're losing freedom in America, which I love your comeback where it's being preserved, I like the positive twist, but I also like the way you said it shows the disparity, or actually the shrinking disparity, if you will, of where they're taking freedoms or where we're losing them, and where they're actually being kept. I think that's it's getting more and more narrow, or it's closing in. We'll say is a better way to put it. But everybody's doing their own little thing, and that's why I brought you on. You're doing Triangle Fragrance.
Mhm.
How are you using Triangle Fragrance to be able to fight for freedom in America?
Sure. Well, besides the obvious pun of selling freedom in a bottle,
Right.
that's actually the best-selling scent.
Exactly.
Go figure, right?
Do you feel freer when you wear that fragrance, I guess is the question.
I can only allow you to experience it yourself, and
Okay.
you be the judge.
All right, there we go.
But yeah, so I am building a business and a brand. So I'm essentially in the lane of promoting capitalism. And we have free markets, thank goodness, still out there.
Right.
And, that's ultimately going to allow us, when we have different business owners and entrepreneurs get together and put together, great solutions to problems that exist, then that way we have more power as a consumer, when we have choices. Right now, as we have given a lot of our freedom away by purchasing overseas, depending on overseas, on countries overseas to provide
Right.
everything to us. And we all felt the pain during, a few years ago, right? When,
Yeah. Don't
we
say it.
really, yeah, you know where I was going, right? Where we were beholden to supply
Right.
chains and, the geopolitical,
Right, exactly.
right. So that absolutely was bad for our country. And that was a big wake up call. And I'd already started the business and, I already knew it was going to, be made in USA. That was absolutely a cornerstone of it.
Right.
But as time has gone on, and we now see the impact, right, of this ESG ABC, I can't keep
Right.
up with that, right, on companies and their decision making, it really underscores the need for me to continue to build this brand and this business for so many reasons, because that's a way to fight back through capitalism.
Mhm.
Because by remaining a private business that's not beholden to these,
I
scores,
I love
right?
it.
Yeah. I mean, and we need more business owners to do that. So they have to go out there and create products and goods and services, preferably here made right in the USA, and be able to do business well so that they can thrive without being beholden
Right.
to these banks that are putting the pressure on them
Exactly.
because of this whole agenda. That's
Well,
really
you're fighting on many fronts. I love you
Mhm.
said capitalism, American business,
Yeah.
fighting the digital system, the banking system. I mean, you really are like some people mentioned one or two things. You really are fighting on several fronts.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And, I once fought on the battlefield as a soldier in
That's right.
uniform. This is a different type of fight, but I think this one is even much more intense and significant because our freedom as a country, as a great nation, is at stake here.
Right.
And if more of us don't rise up and do these things, we need to cover all different levels. We need to have
Right.
more, especially young people too, for a lot of reasons. We need them to get involved in
Right.
in their local politics, right? And their school boards, and to start businesses, and to be involved on all levels of industry throughout our country and decision making. Because if we don't have fresh blood who value this country, right, we're going to have the
Exactly.
theme of what we've been having all along, and that's been problematic. And, I will, call out my peers, fellow Gen Xers who, yeah, maybe you're retired from your job or approaching retirement, or,
Yeah.
your career, or whatever the case, you got out of the military like I
Right.
did, but,
Exactly.
yeah, okay, that's fine. You hung up your hat, but you know what? Put it back on and get to work, because we all need to get involved, because this coordinated attack on multiple fronts on our country is
Right.
palpable, and on our freedom, and we all need to be involved.
Magda, thank you. I tell you, from doing the other interview that we did, hearing your story of fighting on the battlefield, and then hearing your story when you came back, how much you had to fight just to get back and to readjust to society in general, and that you've used all of that to create your own business to help fight for freedom on a capitalism front. That is an amazing story itself. And that's what I told you last time. I wanted more people to hear more about you. My last question for you is, you have is it a 3-step system, or something about the triangle that you use to inspire other people? And that, I think that also promotes freedom. Can you share that with everybody?
Yeah, the freedomtriangle.com. There's a download, a free download on there. I'm actually working on the workbook that will come out, and it's a self-guided path, if you will, towards finding control in your life. Because if more people have control in their life, they're not going to be controlled. They're going to invoke critical thinking. They're going to have the ability, the capacity to do that, because their minds are not going to be under the influence of so many of the things that exist that are out there right now, legal and
Right.
illegal, prescription or non-prescription, or via social media, that are
Right.
controlling, or the media that's controlling people's minds and abilities to think, to be able to use the matter between
Right.
their ears.
Exactly.
So if there's a like you said, a 3-step process, if you will, that people can take, start their journey to find this. And it's so liberating when you break through, you literally have clarity. And that's what happened to me in real life. And that's why I'm sharing that with others, because that way they can apply it to their lives, regardless of what their, life's experiences has been, whether it's been good or bad. We can always improve and become better. So that's the freedomtriangle.com. And, I introduced it in my book, American Dream, in 2019.
Yeah.
And, deviated, started the business,
Right.
Triangle Fragrance, inspired by the Freedom Triangle in the book, because I realized not everybody's going to read the book. But
So real quick, what are the three sides?
yes, we have time freedom, health freedom, and mind freedom. Mind freedom
Okay.
is the ultimate point. And, in a nutshell, you cannot get control of your life if you're not under control. So,
And all of that can be found on trianglefragrance.com, right?
so no, that's on
The Freedom
thefreedomtriangle.com.
Triangle. Okay. The Freedom. Okay.
Or if they go to americandreamthebook.com and read the book and the story leading up to the discovery, that will give them the initial understanding of the power of Freedom Triangle and how important it is that we need to reclaim that back in society. Because let's be real, 100 years ago, people had more control of their lives than they do today. A lot of people today are walking around like drones, and I'm not saying it's their fault, but all these environmental factors exist that
Right.
are controlling us, and we need to get that power back, just as individuals, as humans.
I love it.
So you guys seek that personal freedom, and in doing so, we are able to protect and defend freedom for our great country.
I love it. Magda, that was amazing. That was a great way to put it. I appreciate it.
Thank you, William.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for being on. Look, I'm gonna have you. You're a regular, because I've always liked your story, your fight for freedom. I like what you're doing, and you and I are gonna catch up soon. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you, Magda. Have a great day.
So great to see you.
All right. Bye bye. Hey, how are you, Kimberly? How's it going?
I'm so excited to be here, and I was so excited to see Magda just now. She
Oh,
is
do you know Magda?
amazing. I love Magda. She's one of my besties, and I want to give a shout out.
Wait. I'm bringing her on for just a second.
This is like a reunion.
It is.
But listen,
So wonderful to see you.
We had never bought perfume in our life, and we've bought, I think, 4 bottles so far. Admittedly, one my daughter dropped in a hotel room. That hotel room is going to be perfection for the rest of its life, like an entire
I
bottle.
love it. That's awesome. Well, you two are like on my team. Like you guys are like, I know how much y'all fight for freedom, and and I'm happy you guys know each other.
I know, I love her. We've been together
Magda's
since Naples years ago, right?
Kimberly, do you know her whole story?
Yeah, I have her book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta get a book.
We go back.
I gotta get a book.
Like this.
Yeah.
It is so great to see you here.
I love you so much.
I'm gonna let you tell your story.
Okay.
Well, Magda, see you soon. Magda, take it easy.
Bye.
Bye. That's awesome.
So I'm at a hospital, my second hospital for the day, with a friend who's sick.
Right.
And I think this is the first time I can say I used part of a bedpan to prop up my phone. I don't know how many people can come up with
Well,
that.
we're not going to be talking, but we're certainly not going to be talking it on the show.
Anyway, I can't get my camera quite looking at you. I was having some issues with that. If I just
Oh,
steer
you
one
look
way,
great. You got. Oh,
okay, good.
well,
Good.
it's funny because like my
So-
camera is like right up there, so I've got to position myself a little ways away because if I get too close like you, it makes it look like I'm looking down. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So how are you?
I'm good, and I'm here to talk about really serious stuff, even though I'm laughing and having a good time because I'm
That's right.
so happy to see you. I love you. I love everything that you're doing. But
Thank you so much.
you're talking about what freedoms have we lost
That's
and
right.
what can we do? And we have lost our parental rights. But bigger than that, we have already lost our children to the government. And we are paying with our taxpayer dollars to essentially traffic American children through our court systems. Anytime you
Unbelievable.
exchange money for children, you're trafficking children. And that's something that I can fix as a U.S. Senator in Virginia, which I'm running for the U.S. Senate, www.kimberlylowe.com. I am the
Well,
only
that's one of the reasons
person.
that's one of the many reasons I brought you on. But yeah, because you're running for U.S. Senate. I think it's awesome.
It's amazing. It's an incredible journey. I'm traveling all over the state. I'm driving 6 to 12 hours per day, and I'm seeing beautiful, beautiful things on the ground. And I'm getting to educate people about, big picture issues. And I'm loving it. I'm having the best time with everybody. But
so you think our freedoms are most under attack in our school system via our children?
Well, it's bigger than the school system. So it's really horrible. We are targeting families all across America through our court system. If you sign a contract with the state when you get married and you get divorced, and we know that first-time marriages, 40 to 50% result in divorce. Second-time marriages, 60 to 70% result in divorce. It's a $50 billion industry. And in that court system, children never get to see a mom or a dad again, or children never get to see a grandparent again, because the court system is set up to separate families, not to make them stronger. And again, it's a money-making industry. And what's worse, we've lost 1,000 American children who have been murdered at the hands of their abusers when they've been court ordered to go back to their abusers. And that's something that I can fix. What people don't understand is that these are not constitutional courts. There are not constitutional attorneys. There are going to be a lot of attorneys mad at me right now, but these are admiralty laws of the water courts. These are not constitutional courts. That's why you don't have rights when you walk in. That's why the government and the state owns your children. And worse yet, we're targeting families at an incredibly high rate where we are losing 1 child per minute to child protective services, typically over false
Mm.
allegations. So basically, 1 child per minute in the United States is going into a foster care system. And just because they're going into a foster care system does not mean that they're going into a better situation. 98% of children who had been trafficked in America, and I'm talking
Mhm.
about American children, they had some type of dealings with child protective services. So that's something
Unbelievable.
I can fix. It's a policy fix. We're actually spending $29 billion of our taxpayer dollars to funnel into the states that funnels into the court systems as an incentive to remove children from homes. We have stuff like anonymous reporting, where you have like the 1-800 child abuse hotline. Only
Right.
2% of those incidences have been found to have actual child abuse. The other 98% of children are being ripped out of the arms of their parents. And typically, they never see their parents again because there's no money in order to put them back with their parents. This is the destruction of America from the bottom. I can fix this in a policy standpoint. There's one policy called the Adoption and Safe Family Act. There's different titles. Title 4E is where all the money is funneling in as an incentive to remove children. There's even an incentive to get child support from parents who are already poor and struggling, and they take their children and say, well, now we're also going to make you pay child support even though we're getting government funding for
Yeah.
children. That's Title 4D. You see that all the time in courts, and actually everyone who touches Title 4D child support makes money in the entire system, the judges, the guardian ad litem, the entire court complex. So it is not for the best interest of the child. But all we have to
It's
do,
amazing that our laws have been arranged in such a way that our bureaucracies and our I don't even, not even elected officials, but the people that work within these bureaucracies and these systems make more money by going after more people, by prosecuting more people, by creating more of a problem than solving than having solutions offered. And I say that because I'd love, if you have the time in your travels, you go listen to the interview that I did, the first interview I did today with Elizabeth Franklin Best. Now, and she talks about restoring people's rights.
Mhm.
And it used to be, as a right-leaning person, as a conservative-minded person, used to think in terms of just lock everybody up. Everybody just needs to be locked up, lock them all up, and throw away the key. But she talks about how much overreach the government has taken on our individual liberties, and being able to do that, where it's a fine line between justice and freedom. And we talk about that. It's really interesting. She's defending some of the J6ers. And it's interesting when you hear how much government oversteps the rules and regulations, which is what you're talking about right now. And you
Yes,
said
so
you
it's
can
all
fix that as a
fixable. And
senator.
we can't do that state by state. That's why part of the reasons I'm running for a bigger seat is so I can fix it across the United States.
Yeah.
We have political prisoners right now. Again, if we can restore it as constitutional courts, we can fix this. But back to the Adoption and Safe Family Act, we can reallocate the funds in Title 4E and put them in Title 4B, which would then give us money for family reunification that would work on opioid addiction treatment, housing stability, generational poverty, mental health, healthcare access. We have the money for things, but instead we have a system set up to destroy our families. And the statistics just in divorces were that more than 10 years ago, over 22 million American families have been separated due to poor family court practices. That's not with child protective services. And this is something that we need to fix to make America as strong as possible, because not only is it costing the taxpayer, it's costing society, because it's leading to long-term trauma. And you're talking about children that don't graduate, children that don't have family by the time they get out of foster care. And I'm not saying that I am anti-foster care. There are great foster parents out there. We still need a foster care system. We still need some funding to take care of that, because there are some children in bad homes. So I am not dissing foster care. I'm just saying that there has to be a constitutional due process and that we need to do everything as possible to make our family stronger. So that way we know where children are going and they don't get sex trafficked, because this is a large number of children getting trafficked in America. And I'm thankful that they did the movie Sound of Freedom, but we're still missing the point about the number of missing children in America. We lose 55 children per day out of foster care go missing. Some states like West Virginia have no idea how many kids are even in foster care. And again, super fixable policies.
And
But
this
going
is
back,
and this is a great. When I asked the question, where are we losing freedom? I didn't even think of how we're losing how much freedom we're losing in our children courts and our family courts. And you're making a great point of that. I really appreciate that.
thank you. So going back to the Constitution, we just need to make these into constitutional courts. You can make policy and have great laws all day long at your state level, but it doesn't matter if they don't get enforced. So my recommendation is that at every single county attorney's office, there is oversight. If there is any fraud, any law not followed, and the Constitution is not followed, it will go to someone to be heard, or the judge will be fined. There has to be some type of consequence. Right now, it is a big money business. They will keep families and court systems for decades, however long they have to milk people completely dry. In the meantime, children are the ones who are suffering, and then our entire society is suffering. So a couple other things with that. Here, for example, I can work with the Attorney General's office to stop a couple things like ex parte orders. An ex parte order is when a judge makes an order without questioning any witnesses, going on hearsay just to remove children or do whatever. We need to stop ex parte orders and really look to see if there's actual child endangerment. We need to reform anonymous reporting because we know that doesn't work. There needs to be some type of consequence for false reporting, because there's a lot of people who are pissed off at their neighbors and they call CPS,
Right.
and they get their children removed, never see them again. Here in Virginia, we have special closed dockets. It's in these dockets where people lose their children, their homes, all their assets. This is the same thing with guardian and elder abuse. The court systems are also affecting our elderly who are being put into secret guardianships. They are being completely cleaned out, put in facilities, and murdered. Here's another freedom. You should be able to get old and get care that you need without them killing you and taking everything that you own.
And you know what? I'm at one last point before we get to our next guest here, Kimberly, and you've helped me bring this to light some more in this show, remind people of it. And I thank you for that, which is our bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is where a lot of our constitutional rights are being circumvented, are through the bureaucracies. These bureaucratic agencies that you're referring to, the courts, the different people that work for the courts, they're able to create more of a burden on the people and remove our freedoms without having to go through Congress and create a new law or create legislation that actually has to follow the Constitution. Instead, they're doing it through bureaucratic dictates, mandates, little regulations that they can do just by being involved in their bureaucracies.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to thank you for everything that you're doing. And I want to tell people out there, if you want to stop the trafficking of American children, you need to put your support behind me. Have you experienced divorce? Have you been screwed in court? Have you lost your home, your car, your assets? Have you been in there for years and spent lots of money? You need to support me. I can fix this. I need people behind me. I am the only candidate who was born and raised in Virginia running for this U.S. Senate seat, and I am a fighter, and I'm going to go in there and fix some stuff. I'm honest, and I will not be compromised.
Kimberly, what's your website?
www.kimberlylowe.com. Thank you, guys.
Kimberly, you are amazing. You're spectacular. I can't thank you enough.
All right. Love you lots. Mwah.
Love you. Talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Zeke, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm on.
I love
What's
it,
up,
man. Oh, man.
How are
I'll tell you, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. Doing real well. I've been moving this week, so.
Wait, you're moving? Wait, business or home?
Still in Memphis. Home. Still in
Okay.
Memphis, but moved to a different part of Memphis. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that another time, because I'll be coming up your way in the next month or two.
Nice. Yeah, let me know.
I'll tell you all about that. Well, I'm loving the MGS T-shirt. I actually wore
that.
I love it. I wore my MGS T-shirt the other day, by the way.
Nice.
I got a gray one. So Zeke, I'm asking everybody that comes on today, because today is my Finding Freedom Forum. And the question is, and that's what Kimberly was answering. It's interesting when you ask people from different backgrounds who are involved in different things, you know, and they all see freedom differently and where they see it being lost. Kimberly was talking about how we're losing freedom in the court system and family court. Where do you think that we're losing freedom the most in America?
So you know me now well enough, and you know I've got a radio background and all that stuff. So I like to throw twists all over the place.
I love it. Hey,
so
look,
as I'm reading it,
one of my previous guests did that to me already, so I'm ready. Bring it on.
So it's one of those things where I read the questions and I came up with my knee-jerk reaction, right? And I'm probably still going to talk about those, but I want to know, because I only heard the last guest. You had several guests before me. What were their answers? Just short, what were the freedoms that we're losing?
Well, Magda before Kimberly thought that our freedom is in capitalism, and it's in the realm of capitalism, how our markets aren't as free. And she talked a little bit about digital currency, but she talked about how Buy American, promotes freedom. We had another gentleman before that was talking about elections. We're losing freedom through our elections. We had another one talk about, let's see, checking my notes here. We had Emily was with Moms for Liberty, and she talked about it's through parental rights. We're losing it through parental rights in our schools and stuff like that. Ray Michaels, who was on a little bit before that from Arizona, has an umbrella organization where he brings a lot of organizations together, and he's also more about elections and things like that. So that's where most everybody. Oh, Elizabeth Franklin Best, by the way, I have to talk to you off camera about her a little bit. It's positive. It's just because we're not going to have time to talk about it today. You really need to look into her because she has a Second Amendment. She restores people's freedoms, especially Second Amendment freedoms for people that have been criminally charged, so they don't face.
Oh, like nonviolent felons?
Yeah, what's that?
Like nonviolent felons
Yeah.
getting their Second Amendment rights back?
Yeah.
Okay, I do need to talk to her because I am actually working on a project with that. So that would
she is excellent. Oh my gosh! And when you hear her, she's actually represents some J6ers. When we have more time, I'll call you either later tonight or tomorrow about that.
Yeah.
But
well,
so you're in.
There goes my radio ADD. I'm going to jump on that one first. I know people and I've talked to people that were imprisoned for a joint in their car. They go to jail for it. It's a felony for whatever state they're in, and they do their time. No violence involved. They had possession of marijuana. Now all of a sudden it's legal everywhere, right? But their rights are still gone. They can't own a gun. They can't. There's lots of things where a lot of people think, oh, you're a felon, you shouldn't have a gun. To an extent, yes. If you're a violent felon, I believe, once you commit a violent crime against another human being, you should not have something that has the potential to kill another human being.
Right.
Because it shows, the type of felony you committed shows that you have the capability to take someone's life. If you have a felony for especially marijuana possession, and I'm not saying like I'm a big pro marijuana guy, but if we're legalizing something everywhere, and someone 10 years ago had like a 12-year sentence and got a felony for it, why are they still being punished in perpetuity for something they did that's now legal?
and Elizabeth Franklin Best talks about that. She talked about an example she gave me was an 18-year-old guy who sells a joint at his stepfather's house, and the police come in, they catch him, they search the house. The stepfather has a gun. Now the kid gets charged with a gun crime and selling marijuana. He serves 3 years in jail. He gets out. He's a felon. Now he can't vote. He can't own. He can't protect himself. He faces what she calls civil death. So now he might have only served 3 years, but his life sentence, basically in civil death, that he can never own a firearm, he can never vote. And what happens to people like that? They're more likely to go commit another crime because they can't do anything legally. So I'll set you up with her.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in hearing what your
That's how recidivism starts to happen, right? You
Right.
get out, you're like, okay, I did my time. I'm going to lead a good life. And at every turn, you're getting hit in the face. Yeah, you're a felon. Yeah, you're a felon.
Right.
Yeah, even if you have every good intention in the world, you keep getting blasted with that felony, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm labeled a felon. I'm going to go do it again. Everybody thinks I'm doing it anyways. I'm going to keep doing it, Anyway, so that's not what my knee jerk was.
What was the knee jerk? I'm ready to hear it.
My knee jerk, and this is going to be a weird one, and I always like to make people think. I always like make people stop and think. And a lot of times I do that by making people who even think like I do go, whoa, wait a minute. What was
that about? Right.
And in my mind, in my heart, I'm a constitutionalist. I don't like to label myself Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, anything like that. I am about freedom. I am about liberty. And I believe wholeheartedly in our Constitution. The only real freedoms that we've truly lost politically, like it's actually been legislated. Well, there's several more, but let's talk about the Bill of Rights. Is one, Fourth Amendment, Patriot Act, snap this up.
Right.
No warrant needed as long as we say you're a terrorist. Right. That's scary. That's a freedom that's gone.
The J6s are getting labeled that, by the way.
Exactly. Isn't that convenient?
Franklin Beth talks about that, by the way. But go ahead.
Right. Exactly. Then we go to the Second Amendment, which is MySpace. That's not the old website MySpace, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
The gun world. I work in the gun world. But that's my kind of career field. And we have been having freedoms taken away. Is our Second Amendment gone? No. But it's a slow chipping away. I'm giving the example bump stocks, because if anybody that doesn't understand what's going on in the gun world, they're going to be like, no, Second Amendment is still intact. You can still buy guns. Yeah, you can still buy guns, but they're slowly chipping away at things that technically most people in society won't understand, like a bump stock, right? It's a piece of plastic that mounts on the back. You can bump fire almost any weapon with your belt loop. But this stock made it happen easier. Right? And bump firing, for those that don't know, is rapid firing of a semi-automatic weapon. So there's the ban on those, the pistol brace situation right now. If you have a pistol brace, it's now considered a short-barreled rifle. Well, to get a short-barreled rifle, you have to have a tax stamp. It's still legal to own an SBR, but you have to have a tax stamp to do it. It costs $200, $250, somewhere in there. And you got to wait a long time, and the ATF has to approve it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, all of a sudden with this new pistol brace ban, they're saying, if you register it, we'll waive the $200-something tax stamp.
Oh, how convenient.
So everybody's like, wow, free SBR. But they're not thinking, I'm registering my gun.
Right, exactly.
Their registration of a gun. Yeah, so that's the Second Amendment part. The part that's scary to me, and we haven't lost it yet. We haven't really hit this, but the Supreme Court has had several wins over this when it comes to the Constitution. The most important amendment, and some of my gun folks are going to be like, no, Second Amendment's the most important. It defends all the other amendments.
Right, yeah.
There's a reason the first one, the very first one we did was freedom of speech. That's because you and I can get on here, on the internet, online, on TV, on radio, and we can talk about, hey, there's issues in America, we've got to fix them, right? A lot of people are worried about losing freedoms right now. If we don't have the ability to speak on it, right, from any viewpoint, I'm 100% in favor of someone who totally disagrees with me completely politically. Right, exactly. To have the same freedom. They have the same freedom. We all have that freedom to have discord and debates or agree or, you know, convince each other of different
Right.
things. That's the beauty of this country.
Informing.
I don't want to, right. I don't want to live in a country where everybody's the same. You know, then that's the true meaning of fascism, where a lot of people on the left are like, you're a fascist. No, I don't want everybody to be the same. I want diversity. I want everybody to think alike. This is just what I believe in my heart. You know, I'm a little more conservative. I'm all about freedom.
Right, exactly.
And that's why, you know, that's one of the main reasons I quit using the word liberal. I say leftist. I say on the left, because the root word of liberal is liberty.
Right.
And I want my damn word back.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because I get mad that the Republicans stole the word conservative as much as I get mad that the liberals stole the word liberal. Because, you know, I've got friends who are Democrats that are more conservative than some of my own Republican friends. I've got some Democrat friends that are more, you know, liberal. I have some more Republican friends that are more liberal than some of my liberal friends. So there's really but they use those words as a badge of honor instead of the true meaning of what they are or what their agenda is. So I agree with you on that. That's awesome.
Do you know why?
Tell me, pray tell.
You like that? It's very dramatic. Do you know why?
Pray tell. That's why I said pray tell.
Because the word liberal and the word conservative are polar opposites of each other. They're a 180-degree turn, right? Everyone, if you talk to them, has some gray areas on some of those subjects that fall in those categories.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody does. I have talked to liberal friends and converted some that were adamantly anti-gun, and they have arsenals now. They're still very liberal. They're still very left-leaning, but they have guns because now they can grasp the reason and the meaning for the Second Amendment, which we can talk about later. But if you have
2 more minutes before the next guest.
Oh God. You've got two opposing thoughts and theories. As long as you keep spinning both of those sides up,
right?
We do this in society. And as long as we're doing this and we're fighting with each other, the people at the top get away with whatever they want because we're not paying attention.
Right.
You know, we have to pay attention. And that's back to the First Amendment. Listen to people. Listen to what's going on in the world. Listen to what's going on in our country. And then your last question is, how do we stop it? How do we fight it? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
One is education. MGS Trade School. You know, on the gun side, we're doing education. 2 is get out and vote. You know, a lot of people nowadays, they don't think their vote counts anymore. It does. It really does. Look at the last election. And the other thing is, if you want to even take it a step farther, run for office. I don't care what your viewpoints are. If you want to make change, run for office. And last one, and I'll leave you because I know you said 2 minutes. If you get jury duty, go to jury duty. That is the one time a civilian in this country can really change things in the law. Okay. Did I make it in 2 minutes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what you did was, I talk about people about your vote mattering, and I'll end on this one. And I am gonna call you later on to give you the information. But the one thing I tell people is, they say, "Well, my vote doesn't matter." And look, and I've got plenty of friends that acknowledge the last election was stolen, you know, and feel like their vote doesn't matter. I said, well, here's why it's important to vote, even if you don't think your vote matters, because the ones that are counting the votes, the elected officials, the bureaucratic agencies that are watching the turnouts, they then realize how much they can get away with by what the percentages are. And even if the election is stolen, you know, they still know, wait a minute, the majority of Americans don't want this. You know, Zeke, MGS Trade School. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna use your site to share and post your website.
Please do. Thank you.
I'm going to give you a call later on. I'll give you that information.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Watch the next set. We got some other guys coming on right now.
All right. Cool. I'll do it.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Randy and Daryn, how are you, man?
Good. I got to move in here. We got the skinny screen.
Yeah, but while you're moving in, I'll bring up my co-host.
Holy cow. Gosh.
So, you know, my co-host. So you got your co-host. This is my co-host. You see. So
I didn't know we're going to be this snuggled together tonight. This is closer than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's
well,
kind of.
let's see that. Let's see if this brings you apart a little bit. How?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
No, little bit more elbow room.
There we go.
Okay,
There we go.
it ain't that kind of show.
I feel a lot more comfortable now.
Well, I'm glad I got Randy on too, because I know Daryn thought Randy might not come on, and when I heard that you're gonna be on, I'm like, this is exciting. I love the background. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Awesome. How you been?
Good, real good. Well, look, getting the chance to meet you guys at a Clay Clark event, hearing a little bit about talking with you all. I know that you all are also passionate about freedom and liberty, which is why I brought you on to answer the question that everybody gets asked on Finding Freedom Forum, which is, where is our freedom in America under attack?
I'll let you start.
I think number one, buddy, is freedom of speech. I had a long convo with my wife today before this episode, and
wait.
And she won't let you talk.
Wait, you had a conversation with your wife?
Oh yeah, I said, because
did she take away your First Amendment right by saying no, you can't?
She's Italian, so she speaks a lot. I mean, she talks about all this stuff. I mean, she's very vocal, and she's in healthcare. And I said, what's your thoughts on this? Because I said, Randy and I are always doing shows, where they're on shows or interview guests, so we're always so close to the topic. I said, give me your input. And she said, well, we're losing our freedoms of speech on social media, at work. She's in healthcare. She's lost a lot of ability to speak up and speak out at work. As you know, Bill, the media is not reporting both sides of our speech. Parents are being silenced in schools. They're not wanting the parents to see what they're actually teaching behind the curtain a lot of times in these schools, and,
right.
Whether it's elementary, junior, senior high school. I think we're losing our ability to question anything at all. I mean, if you do, you're considered like a bigot, or you're racist, or you're a scary right-wing conservative, and an extremist. And I think one of the biggest things, and we're experiencing this right now in the great state of Missouri and Clay County, is from losing our freedoms. They just arbitrarily just decide, on a whim, say, hey, we're going to jack up your property taxes, personal property, real estate property. And this year we had a massive hike here in Clay County, didn't we, Randy?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I know some counties got a 300% rate increase.
It's insanity. I mean, I have cousins that her house value went up like 3 times, and I'm like, this is lunacy. I mean, who gives these people the right? And we're going to get into that before the show's over on what we're doing to kind of help counteract some of this stuff. What do you think, Randy?
Well, there's a whole laundry list. When I started writing this stuff down, I mean, we've got speech, we've got medical freedom, we've got the cabal controlling us through taxation and keeping us in debt. Don't forget religion, the teachers' unions controlling our education and our social agendas.
That's right.
And don't forget our land and property. We are supposed to, under God's law, be able to own our stuff, and nobody can take it from us.
And you know what? You know what they're doing to attack our landowning rights is, of course, you can own your property, but then you're still going to pay property taxes. And then don't forget that you have to have health, you have to have insurance on, you have to have homeowners. And then here in Louisiana, we have to flood insurance. My homeowners went up so much in the last 2 years that my house note is going to jump almost $700 a month.
No way.
Yes, just because of homeowners insurance. So that's another way that we're losing freedom through tax. Without taxing us, they're finding ways to get around it. And I'll give 2 more quick things, and then I'll give you guys your opportunity, because it's about you all before the next guest, which is we had a bureaucratic agency in my area. Our Department of Parks and Recreation is tearing down 2 acres of land of old growth trees in the only wooded park in our area, which doesn't have many trees, by the way, because of Louisiana. And they're creating a parking lot and soccer fields, and it did not go through the city council. And also, about a half a mile from my house, they're building a 3rd library within 1 mile of each other. We have 3 libraries for 3 different communities. And so they're going to spend $5-10 million of our tax dollars. And that also did not go through the council. So I'll let you guys finish. I get it. I understand that.
Well, here's the crazy thing about the taxes. They are not supposed to be taxing our residents. they can only tax us if we're a corporation. So they can only tax. They're supposed to only tax if it's a commercial operation. So they've crossed this over, and all of this stuff they've watered down over the last 100 years or more. And so another example would be, you get a hailstorm and you put a new roof on your house. Well, now your property value goes up on your house. You can't deduct your roof because you're not a corporation. If that was a corporation, you could deduct your roof.
So they found a way to circumvent the current laws just a little bit to be able to enrich government.
Right.
Bill, what we found out in the last year, we have a very strong group here we formed here in the last 12, 14 months. And we meet regularly. I mean, like 2 or 3 times a month. And the things that we're uncovering and digging up from the actual laws, the Missouri Constitution, U.S. Constitution, and how the laws are written versus the laws that people have been given and expected to believe,
and have been distorted through the bar and become statutory instead of common under the UCC, the codes.
It makes your skin crawl when people actually did. Now, take it from me. I hated history. I hated politics. I was a business owner. I got married, raised 3 kids. Didn't know anything about any of this stuff. Didn't do. Heck, if I ever voted, it was a presidential election. I never voted in a school board race. I never voted in all this other stuff. But now that we're uncovering and unraveling all this stuff and this nonsense that we've been lied to for the last, like Randy said, 100 years, it's just unbelievable what they've pulled over on us, and what 98% of our friends, family, relatives, neighbors, they have no idea what we're even talking about. They think, they think we should be wearing one of these. They think we should be wearing the tinfoil hat, And when Randy a while ago talked about all this stuff, I mean, people, you talk about this to neighbors and friends and family, they look at you like you're, what have you been watching? What have you been smoking?
It is interesting how you say that. It's a great point there, Daryn. Is that in today's world, the minute you start talking about election integrity, or you start talking about what the politicians are doing, they just think you're a crazy loon because, oh yeah, look, you're just going over there. If you vote, as long as you go, they have the perception that as long as you go vote and show up to work every day, that you have your freedom and everything's okay. Anything outside of that little box, you're a crazy loon. Put your tinfoil hat back on.
Well, the other thing that concerns me is the more we learn about the real laws, we were taught the wrong stuff in school. It is all glazed over to what that group of elite wanted us to know. There's so much that we were learned in school that's absolutely a lie. And we feel like that we need to start teaching true history in schools, that they would probably fall out of their chair if they knew what that was.
One thing I've done a lot of on my show is I like to dive into not only history, but I like to, for instance, I read a book a lot called the Second Amendment Primer. And when you read the Second Amendment Primer, a lot of things really come out. I have it right over here by me, actually. It's the second. Well, that's the American Patriot Handbook. But there's a book called the Second Amendment Primer. I'll get you the writer in a minute. I think it's Les Adams, actually. It talks about how the founding fathers, not just pertaining to the Second Amendment, how the founding fathers went way back in history, and actually how freedom, how liberty, how things worked way back. And when he talks about the Second Amendment, he talks about how civilizations in the past succeeded because they had the right to self-defense. When you really read history that far back, freedom jumps out at you in the rawest and purest of forms. And that's, like you said, we got to protect.
Yep.
So you're on a roll though, Randy. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. That was my point. Is they've just. I mean, now they're trying to get force feed us a food that's not even real. So they're controlling every aspect of everything that our founding fathers laid out for us to have freedom under God's law. They control all of it.
And just imagine, if you will, the freedoms that we'll be losing if they institute digital currency, because that's the next thing that they're trying to get. If they get a digital currency, everything you buy, everything you do is going to be tracked, recorded, and Magda, which, by the way, it's funny because my last guest, Zeke Stout, if y'all know Zeke from MGS Trade School.
We do not know Zeke.
I do not.
Oh, you gotta have Zeke on your show with MGS Trade School. Anyway, he had asked me what some of my other guests were talking about, and Magda had mentioned that about the digital currency and how easy it will be to just turn off based on your social credit score. Turn off your way to use cash, and then who do you call? Like if your digital card gets turned off because you're not supposed to buy something based on your social credit score. These are freedoms and liberties that we have to be aware of. So where I like to ask the question, where are we losing freedom and liberty? We also have to be aware of the ones that we haven't lost yet, that we need to be ever vigilant of in protecting. It goes beyond our Second Amendment. What do you think?
I personally think that unless you're buried in this and passionate about it, like all of us are, you're not going to see the dots connecting, and because it's such a slow drip. Until recently, they've got their foot on the accelerator now. But unless you've done your homework and seen it in the background, you're not going to see how they're taking stuff from us. I think now it's easier to see, but prior to that, even us, 3 years ago, we let them take all of our stuff because we didn't know.
Well, we're in the great state of Missouri, the show me state, Bill, and, Kansas City Royals, the Chiefs are right here. They just opened a brand new airport like 3 months ago. And a lot of people think it's so cool that you can go to a Chiefs game or a Royals game now, and you're not allowed to pay cash. You have to use card. You have to use all kinds of, like you said, digital money. And, people think it's wonderful. Hey, I don't have to, carry cash anymore. And, the younger kids are going to airports and walking in and out of the convenience store or the gift shops. And, they just wave their credit card and put their palm down on a machine. And they're getting all these people, accustomed to this right now. But the pace that it's going is, I think, exponentially faster than what we had ever anticipated.
Absolutely right. They're like you said, they're pushing the accelerator on right now.
Yeah. Because think about it, if they can get it pushed through entertainment, whether you're going to a concert, a game, an airport, that's 70-80% of the population that's used to doing that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So it's just another social experiment to get people on the right path.
And when they're tracking that much information, it's not just the freedom. It's not just the freedom of being able to pay with cash. It's the freedom of privacy. It's the freedom of being able to go where you want to go. It's the freedom of just being, I want to go hide in the woods and not have anybody know where I am. Not that you do anything wrong, but just that you want to be able to be left alone. You're never going to be left alone. You're always going to be watched over and over with that.
100%.
So guys, final word. We got my next guest is waiting in the wings. Any final words on where we're losing freedom and what you guys are doing, or what can we do to save it and protect it?
Here's what I think we need to do to stop this. People need to be getting conservatives elected on school boards and health boards. We become a committeeman. And that's a committeeman is a person locally that helps to get strong conservatives elected. My wife is non-political at all, is now a committee woman. And she does identify as a woman. And I know that. And, pray for these people, help to financially support them, and forget about losing your friends, your family, and hurting people's feelings. You're going to lose some people, but you're going to gain exponentially more. What we're doing here at Patriots with Grit is what, Randy?
Well, we started this to kind of get that truth out there. With every truth, we tried to come up with a solution from our guest. I think now we're going to start getting more into educational series, things like
Love it.
The thing that's moving across the country is general jural assemblies and common law knowledge and how to litigate your own common law case. So just trying to get people weaponized to be able to confront it head on.
We just joined we just started a group here in the last few days called Law Lions. We're actually going to meet like a law club to learn actual law and how it works on our side, and to teach people that, hey, the judges and the attorneys in the courts, don't fear them, because, a lot of times they're wrong, but they have bullied you for generations into believing that their way is the only way. And we're learning that that's not really the case all the time.
Well, it's like what my previous guest just said too, is like everybody thinks the Second Amendment protects the First Amendment, but the First Amendment is about knowledge and power. And to you guys, to your point, as we say here in New Orleans, in the Louisiana area, to your point, when you teach people and you give them knowledge, just like MGS Trade School does, by my previous guest said, when you teach people and you give them knowledge, knowledge is powerful, and knowledge can be more powerful than a gun. And hey, you like that, huh?
Yeah,
knowledge
and we
can be
just
more
had this conversation because I said knowledge is great. You got to have it. But if you just take knowledge and you keep your butt sitting on the couch and you don't get up and find a way to take on a problem and take action, the knowledge does you no good.
That's right. Knowledge is as powerful and sometimes more powerful than a weapon.
100%.
Randy and Daryn, thank you so much. How can people find Patriots with Grit so they can hear some themselves?
You go to patriotswithgrit.com. You can find us also on Patriots with Grit on all the social media channels, on Rumble, Cloud Hub, Apple Podcasts, Gab, Telegram, Truth Social. We're getting ready to add some more platforms that are, not deep state run. So we won't be canceled like we were on communist-owned YouTube. But we're going back onto YouTube soon under a different alias that we're going to kind of go underground, but we will be back.
You go in there as liberals love America or something like that.
Right. They'll push us to the top.
I love it. Randy and Daryn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
See you later.
I appreciate it. We'll see you soon now. Take it easy.
All right.
We got the next guest coming up here. You ready?
Let her go.
Hey, Connie, how are you today?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Connie. I tell you what, you're the last guest for the night. And, so, you get to have the last word on everything. And I can't thank you enough. I've been looking forward to having you on my show for a long time, even though I see you out and about at events here, other freedom loving events out in our area. I'm glad you made it tonight.
Yeah, thanks. I was looking forward to coming on tonight too.
So, Connie, before I ask you the question I ask everybody on the Freedom Forum, what is it that the Louisiana Freedom Caucus does?
The Louisiana Freedom Caucus was just formed this year. If you've seen the House Freedom Caucus in Washington, D.C., that's exactly who we are. We're same people who started this, had a lot to do with standing up the Freedom Caucus at Congress. So we are a group that helps the legislatures in the states. Louisiana is number 11. We're the newest one. And we help these legislators who are in Louisiana part-time, don't have adequate staff. Not saying their staff itself is inadequate. Right. There's just no budget to hire.
Right, exactly. Well,
help them read bills and things like that.
And to your point, the staff for a lot of these legislators, they're inundated. I mean, they're getting calls all day long, every day. There's a possum, there's a rat, there's a, I'm kind of joking a little bit, but it is some seriousness to it. They get inundated with all the day-to-day calls on solving problems, that they got to sift through. So they don't have the opportunity to get the information about freedom, liberty, like you're getting for the legislator themselves. Is that right?
Well, yeah, they get so much legislation dumped on them, and they don't have enough money or staff to actually read the bills. Right. They have to trust the legislative bureau's breakdown of the bills. They need someone who can help them look through and see what might be harmful to liberty and freedom, what might be underlying some of these layers of the language.
Right.
And that's what I do. We offer, bill breakdowns, vote recommendations, things like that, so they can find things in bills. Just like, for example, there was a teacher compact that was, it all sounded great that we would exchange licensing with other states. And when 10 states got into it, we would be able to, just seamlessly move all of these teachers in and out of the different states. Well, when I dug into the compact itself, there were emergency powers. And I'm like, okay, why do teacher compacts need emergency powers? Right. Then I started thinking along the lines of government shutdown of schools. So if you agree to do all of these things, you could, and there was no set process to get out of this teacher compact, how much it was going to cost you, how much in penalties and fees. And they said, well, that's not done yet because they don't have the 10 members to form the board. to put all of these things together in bylaws. And I'm saying, well, why would you join something before it's even set out in front of you what it's going to mean? So I nicknamed it the Hotel California bill, because you could check out anytime you want, but you could never leave.
That's a good way to put it. I love it.
So that got killed.
So that one got killed. But isn't that interesting? The emergency powers. Do you know there's still the Louisiana governor still has an emergency power in effect over the driver's license bureau? So that's
not surprising.
Yeah. Now I'm not exactly. I'm not going to get it wrong. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but I'm going to give you the gist of it right. Basically, right now there's an Emergency Powers Act from COVID that's never expired, still in force. That the governor has. There's some sort of that. Oh, so that way that when you go to the DMV, that you can register online to register to vote. It has something to do with voting. So now basically you figure out, so maybe if we're packing registrations, through our DMV via the Emergency Power Act, and by the way, coincidentally, if you remember, our DMV database just got hacked into, so you look at all these things that are happening through the emergency powers that you just now brought up that a school board has. What can go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Look, this was my third, having just moved back to Louisiana. I'm originally from here. I've been in the beautiful city of Washington, D.C. for the better part of the past 2 decades working at Congress. So a lot can go wrong. And this was my third hack.
I love it.
Louisiana DMV was my third one. Twice the Office of Personnel Management for the federal government has been hacked. So they can't keep anything safe anymore. I don't know why we are trusting them with all of this data when they have proven that they can't keep it safe. The banks.
Meanwhile, I have a lot of friends who say our elections are safe and secure with the machines.
No. Well, the one thing, though, that Louisiana does have going for it as far as the voting machines is that it doesn't use the proprietaries. We have our own software in Louisiana. We do not use any of the pre-made software. So it's actually been a lot better than other states that I've seen. So that's one saving grace. But I'm sure people will look much more deeply into all of this once the governor is changed and we get someone new, like, say, Jeff Landry.
There you go. And by that time, though, they'll have the new machines coming up, depending on what this last Secretary of State has been able to do. I don't know what stage of the game that the machine's in. So where do you think freedom is most under attack?
Parental rights. It used to be in question that if you were a minor child, no doctor, no anyone, school system, no one could do anything to your child without your written permission. Permission slips for going on a field trip, all of these different things.
That's
but now your medical care we can do that. Right. We can transition your child and no teacher has to tell the parent, no doctor has to tell the parent. That's ridiculous. We're looking at the new New Orleans, the Children's Hospital of New Orleans, a new story just came out that 13-year-olds, if you're 13 or older, their policy is to cut off the parents from the child's medical records. And
Really?
then they have a new, Eric is the name of the company, but it's MyChart. Everyone uses MyChart for their doctor's records, but they collude with the hospital or the doctor to cut out access unless your child gives express permission.
Right. Unbelievable.
How did that change? What happened there?
Someone that was working on 648 told me that happened with her child, that she got cut off from the medical records, as a result. So I could see right what you're saying. So what do you do? What does the Freedom Caucus do in Louisiana besides help the legislators? Do you all do anything else when it comes to freedom and liberty?
Well, the most important thing you can do is you were talking about knowledge and how knowledge is, with your prior guest, how knowledge is so important to being able to effectively do things. Well, the knowledge in the hands of the legislators to be able to effectively legislate is paramount. And that's what I do. That's what we do. We inform, we read the bills, we break them down, and we say, hey, check this, because you can't effectively vote for something that doesn't have an alternative hidden within it if you're not able to read the bills. And they set it up in a way, especially for conservatives, to be at a disadvantage on what you're allowed to read because you don't have time. Case in point, the final day of the legislative session, last session, they dropped the spending bills with 15 minutes to go before adjourning sine die, which meant adjourning for the end of the entire session. And they gave them bills that took 11 days for the professional staff to sort out after they passed the legislature. How can we allow this to happen? So what the Freedom Caucus does is we help these people know what's in it when it's fairly, given. And there's also a PAC that supports us, and they want to help elect more people that would be of a caliber to be, and that means being a patriot, believing in freedom and liberty, to be able to be invited to join, because you have to be invited to join the Freedom Caucus. We don't let you dilute it down with a bunch of people who say they're patriots, but they don't have the voting record to prove it.
So the Freedom Caucus is really more for legislators who are about freedom and liberty. And when they're a member of the Freedom Caucus, you all help them with their legislation.
Right. We help them be a more effective legislator to get more effective legislation across the finish line.
I love
that doesn't have all of these hidden elements in it, just like they're doing up in DC.
Yeah, well, and I watched that with this last session in Louisiana. I watched them take legislation and sneak things in last minute, all these little amendments, and then nobody knows what the amendment is. And then what's sad is that, and look, and some of these, most of these, well, I'll say most, all of these guys I like on a personal level. Okay, I've talked to all of them on a personal level. There might just be one. I don't even know. I'm just saying that I might not like as much, but all of them I like on a personal level. And I think what happens is some of them get wrapped up into getting it passed. They've got an idea. They want to get it passed. In the process, amendments get added, and they get to the end, and they're not worried about what's been added or changed. They just want to get it passed. That's part of the challenge. And they get wrapped up into it because they're distracted on so many other things that are going on, that it's not necessarily not their fault, but it's that they got distracted. And so squirrel, so, so you're the Freedom Caucus. You all work with people that might be in that situation to say, hey, look, we've looked at this. You might want to rethink it.
Or it got amended, and now it has completely gutted the entire purpose of the bill. So, if you pass it like this, know that your bill is not as effective as you originally wanted it to be. Case in point, Danny McCormick's, his constitutional carry bill. They watered it down so much in the Senate that he just pulled the bill. He didn't even let them vote on it because he didn't want it to pass at that point because it was too watered down by Senate amendments. So, and that's all they could pass out of the Senate.
You about this year or last year?
This year.
Because last year he did something similar on a bill of his, and at the very last minute he pulled it, and it was it was spectacular the way he did it. Because and I commend him on it because it's like it went down with dignity. And it was done.
It's like, I'm not going to let you ruin my bill and pass it as a fig leaf that you can hide behind pretending like you did something.
Exactly. But the dignity part of it is also protecting freedom and liberty in a way. Hey, look, I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to win a battle this time. I'm coming this back to win the war, later.
Right. When there is a governor who will sign it and who will help you fight for what should be in it, which is, unless you are a convicted felon, you should be able to legally carry a weapon, period.
So actually there's a whole other, I did an interview, the very first interview I did was about restoring felons' rights to own a gun if they weren't a violent criminal. But that's a whole other story. So see,
Yes.
now we're talking. We've been focusing a little bit on Louisiana because you're the Louisiana Freedom Caucus. But what I tell my national listeners is that, you know, we got to look at each other's states, what each state is doing, because it's a lot of time just to figure out what's going on a national level. But when you can find a topic like say the Second Amendment, and you can watch what other states are doing, it gives us the opportunity to, one, be able to know what we might need to do or what works in other state, but it also keeps us in check with what's going on around our country, you know, on freedom and liberty. So do you all connect those dots, you know, from other states?
Oh yeah, we do. Like I said, we are the 11th state, and we're standing them up as quickly as we can find the people to do it in each state who are responsible and know legislation and know how to do these things. So we are, and we share with the other states. We meet every other week with the folks in DC. We meet, I think it's once a month, just the directors, which I am Louisiana's director, just the directors meet, and we trade best practices. This is how we did this. This is how we did that. And it's just really streamlined a lot of things that we're able to better bring about. I mean, don't you think it's sad when people know who Jim Jordan is, but they're not from Ohio and they don't know who their own legislators are?
Right, exactly.
The local stuff's much more important.
Exactly.
National stuff.
So the Freedom Caucus, the Freedom Caucus was what was in DC, and now they're branching off and opening up other divisions of it in other states.
Right. The House Freedom Caucus in Congress was started by Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, and they've all, you know, either well, Mark Meadows isn't there anymore, but you had to be invited to join. What they did to kill all of the other conservative organizations was former Speaker John Boehner would have all of these members come in and join and dilute its effectiveness, because now there are all these Boehner people.
Right.
So in the Louisiana Freedom Caucus, we have adhered to what the national model is, and that is you have to be invited to join. And we back candidates, you know, as that are running for office, so we can broaden the base of people. But you have to be a real rock rib conservative, and if you are not performing as one, you will be asked to leave, which is not really good for your political career.
Yeah, oh, wow, this is great. So this is what the Freedom Caucus is doing on a not only on a national level, on a state level, to protect and preserve freedom in our country. What are the top issues of the Freedom Caucus? I know you said you think the number one reason where freedom is being lost in America is through parental rights, i.e. our schools. But what are the other top issues on the Freedom Caucus's agenda?
Well, some of them, if you look at this new frenzy to go, you know, to the carbon sequestration, what they're doing in all of these different states is they are giving eminent domain to the private companies to seize land to put down pipelines. How's that for losing your freedoms?
Exactly. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah.
So is that
that's in the law here?
Is that what's happening in Lake Maurepas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it will transition to the companies. They're injecting this stuff into the ground, and in some cases, it's so condensed and so toxic that the pipeline needed to house this stuff to transport it costs $1,000 per foot. And they're building this infrastructure. Well, when you start running pipelines back and forth to put this stuff in different places, you gotta grab land to do that. And sometimes it's right in the middle of someone's farmland. And it's happening. You read all about it. It's happening right now in South Dakota, and they have armed standoffs there now.
Oh, yeah, you don't hear about the armed standoffs much, do you?
No, you don't. But there really are right now, because these are companies, not even governments anymore, but the government giving the companies the power to come in and seize your land. Now, even if they put a storage facility somewhere and your land is adjacent to it, it's in the ground. There's no like big container in the ground to house this stuff. So it's in the ground. And if it seeps onto your property through the ground, they can seize your property too and condemn it.
Well, that's what that's what they think is happening at when the Ohio train derailment happened. You know, all of a sudden, all that land was deemed toxic. So the government got to use eminent domain and pay the people off and take the property. You know,
Yeah, I think though it's bad enough when the government is using eminent domain, but to give that to private companies is really it's beyond the pale.
That is not only a violation of our Constitution. That's a violation. That's a violation of our property rights. It's a violation of freedom, and of course, we understand that. But that right there paves the way to give government the opportunity to take once they take an inch, they take a mile. Once they take an acre, they're going to take a hectare. So that to your point, if we don't preserve our freedoms now, if we don't fight for this now, they're going to take more later. And I had this exact parallel conversation in the beginning with my first guest tonight, Elizabeth Franklin Best, and where we talk about people's freedoms that they've been overcharged for crimes, or maybe they've served their time and then they've lost their freedoms so they face a civil death. But and while she's fighting to preserve people's rights, to be able to stop the government from setting a precedent for the future for them to take more rights away, your analogy here is perfect for property rights, and I can't thank you enough.
No problem. We got to make people aware of all of this stuff so they can stop it, or at least put up some resistance to it. Because if you don't know it's going on, you certainly can't do anything about it.
How can more people get involved with the Freedom Caucus, not only on a Louisiana level, but on a national level?
Well, in Louisiana, the Louisiana Freedom Caucus has a Substack, but nationally, our group is the State Freedom Caucus Network. And you can reach out through, their website. I've gotten many messages. They shift them to the states, and they're always looking for people who are vettable to be able to be credible state directors, so we can take this nationwide. And we're in the process of doing a lot of that now.
I love it. Connie, I can't thank you enough for being on my show. I've been wanting to have you on for so long, and we're going to do more down the road and help people get to know. So I want to make that announcement now that down the road, there's an open door for the Louisiana Freedom Caucus or any other Freedom Caucus around the country to come on my show if there's an issue that you guys need help promoting or have some publicity for, to be able to help protect freedom, not only in each individual state, but in our country.
Absolutely. Because all together we can beat them back, but we have to have the knowledge to do it.
Well, I'm going to end our show out, and if you hang on, I'm going to talk to you off camera here in just a second. And if you can hang on for 1 minute, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Connie. Everybody else, we've been going for over a few hours now. We've had a lot of good guests. I would love it if you'd share this show. You're going to find it on this show will be posted on YouTube. It'll be posted on Rumble. You've been watching it on Facebook, and you've been watching it on CloudHub. The audio for this will also be found on all podcast apps at William Wallace for America. Thank you so much for listening today, and I really appreciate you. Have a great day.